Hello and welcome to day 12. Today we are going to learn about selecting data from MySQL, selecting selective data, selecting data through PHP and display selected data. Let's get started. One of the most important things while working with dynamic data transfer for any web application is data search and select. We do search within our database for different purposes, like we need some data to display on our web pages, we need data to update, delete or edit, or we need data to use in further processing within our application for different activities. Select and search means almost same for MySQL. Whenever we search for some data, if MySQL finds it, selects it. So to select some data from tables of our database, we need to write select query. Through this query, MySQL searches the data that matches our query parameters and gives that data back to us. So selecting or searching the data from tables is the same thing. Just like insert query, we execute the select query. Only the difference is we get results in return of execution of select query. Let's try to understand this in phpMyAdmin command prompt first. We are in users table. Let's go to the SQL, that is the command prompt of MySQL. Here you can see the default query of select is already there. So whenever we come here, the first query which command prompt shows is select query. Let's push enter from the keyboard and this query executes and searches for the data in this table. So these are the results of the query we just ran. Now let's try to understand the syntax of select query. This is the basic structure of select query. Let's just remove where one. Don't bother about it right now. So we start the query with select reserved word and then static. This means select everything or search everything, then from as simple as English language and then table name users. So this query will select or search all data and display everything from users table. Now click the tab below here, go, and this time it's showing data for our query. Get back to the command prompt and this time we want to select data only from our user ID column. So instead of static, we mention the name of the column user ID here. So we are issuing a command select all user ID from users table. Press go and here we have data only of one column we mentioned, and that is user ID, no other data. So we can select any column or all columns data with our queries by just specifying what we need. Now let's select the data which is in name column only. So get back to the command prompt and just change static with name. And there we have only data of name column. One thing more, you can guess from this screen that edit, delete and select buttons are missing now. This is because in our selection we don't have the primary key selected, and that is user ID. So if you want to have edit, delete and select buttons on your screen, you must have primary key within your columns that you selected. So let's select the whole data in user ID. That's also primary key of this table and data of name column. Just put a comma between the names of columns to select data from multiple columns. That's easy and straightforward enough. Now you can see we have the data for both of these columns and we have our buttons back to edit, delete, select or to alter the table. Now let's try to get data from 3 columns, this time including username. And you can see we selected the whole data of these 3 columns. Now let's move little further and try to get some specific record from users table as well as from columns. So To select some specific record or set of records, we specify additional information using where reserved word. After this keyword, we tell what the data should be similar to. In this case, I just want the record where the user ID is equals to 2. So it's very easy to get some specific data. Hit go. You can see only data having user ID equals to 2 has been selected. You can perform this functionality on any of your columns. Let's get data with specifying a name. So let's copy James from DB and put it within single quotes as its type in DB is workhorse. So we need to provide it as a string. Click go, and here we have all those records where the name is James. We get two records having same name, user ID 2 and user ID 15. So this is how we can search and select some specific data from table or from some specific columns depending on our needs. Same thing we can do with username. Let's copy any username from DB and paste it in here for our easiness. Hit go, and you can see the only relevant data selected where this username was found. Let's assume we want to select some data from the table where the data is almost like the parameters we supply. For this we use like reserved word instead of equals. We use %sign to use a wildcard. That means the point where we put this %sign is indicating MySQL. Don't worry, here can be anything and look for other parameters to match. I'm writing letter A after this wildcard. It means MySQL should search all those names that contain letter A at the end or A is their last letter. Let's try this. Here you can see we didn't find any matching record. It means there is no any record in column name that ends with letter A. Let me just paste previous query again to save some time, and this time after this wildcard %sign put SA, and after this another wildcard %sign. So what we want to select here is get the record from users table where only the data in name column contains SA anywhere in its name. Let's click go, and you can see MySQL found two results, user ID 1 and 14. We actually did not select name column, but our search or selection was only based on this column. I hope you are getting my point clearly. Let's verify our search results from the full view of users table. Here you can see only this record, user ID 14, has SA within its name column and user ID 1 has SA in its name column. There is no any other record in this whole table which has SA anywhere in its name column. Now let's try this one last time. I'm just changing SA with JA and appending wildcard at the end of JA. Let's run it, and now again it finds two records, user ID 2 and 15. Let's verify from the full table data view. Another thing you might have noticed that the selection is not considering the letter case. You can either put upper, lower or mixed letter case. It won't matter for selection. So here is user ID 2 and here is 15 starting with JA.